Kyle Youngkin. I'm our Director of Customer Success here at Gallus Golf. We also have Matt Caden with us on the call too. He's our Senior Customer Success Manager. Today we're going to be taking a look at custom leaderboards. But before we get started on that, I just want to remind you all what the Pro Tips webinar series is all about. Now, we're really trying to get you 30 minutes or less webinars every other week with some feature of the app that we think might be useful to you in season. So in the lead up to it, we're trying to get as many of these in as possible, of course. We want to inspire you a little bit, maybe take a look at something that you might have seen when you first launched an app with us, but maybe you decided not to get started with it. But now that we're entering another year, it's an opportunity to add more things in so that your users have a better experience too. And again, like I said, we do share these recordings the same day. We share them out everywhere on the email, LinkedIn, a couple other spots too. So don't ever worry if you can't make it. We're really just here so that you can have us live if you have questions. There is a Q&A box, like we've been mentioning. So if you have questions throughout, be sure to throw them in there. And at the end of the webinar today, we will take a look back at them and get as many of these questions answered as possible too. So I just want to take a moment to remind you, what is the goal of having an app? The goal really is to make sure that you get as many people to download your app as possible so that you have a bigger audience to send out messages and also to enhance their experience too. So that's the goal. We want to try to get as many eyeballs in there as possible. With that being said, let's take a look at custom leaderboards and how that could help. So today's agenda, we're going to start off with a little bit of background on custom leaderboards, what they're all about, what you can use them for, so on and so forth. We're then going to talk about the difference between custom leaderboards and GTW. We use GTW colloquially here at Gallus, but it's basically abbreviation of our Gallus Tournament Wizard software. So we have a built-in tournament software in the app. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, about the difference between that and custom leaderboards. We'll also talk about how users actually register for a custom leaderboard, because operationally, that's the biggest question. Obviously, how do people get in there and do that? And then we'll end it with some creative ideas that we think would be awesome for your facility, along with that Q&A that we promised. So let's get rolling here. Number one, let's take a look at some background. What are custom leaderboards? Custom leaderboards are a way for users to keep track of how other people are doing out on the course. You have a number of options to set them up. Like I said, we'll talk about the user experience in a moment, but let's talk about some of the things you can set up on the back end when you're doing this. So one of the things you can do is you can set it up so that users can add themselves to the leaderboard when they're in the scorecard and GPS. So that's one of the major differences between this and the Tournament Wizard. Instead of you identifying the people that are in it, you're actually going to let them go in and join themselves. So we see in the screenshot at the top right that there's a join button that they can tap on, and then that will add any scores that they enter in into the custom leaderboard. So when you set it up, you have a number of options, of course, to make sure that it's right for the particular event that you're setting up. One of them is which course. So if you're a multi-course facility, you can choose which rotation you're on, or even if it's like just a 9-hole course, we can always set that up for you or something of that nature. You can also set the leaderboard name, of course, which appears at the top. You can also do a description that shows up on one of the pages that we'll show you that really just kind of explains to the user what that leaderboard's all about. You can also set your default game, a number of options for default game. You could do stroke, Stableford, par, or skins, gross or net for all 4 of those. So technically 8 scoring styles for these. You can do a start date and times, which is the first day that it will appear in your app and time as well, and an end date and time too, at which point it will disappear for users and they won't be able to join it again. You can also set it up to be auto join if you don't want to have people have to go in and tap the join button. You can just decide for them. That basically means if they start a scorecard during that time period you set up in the previous 2 bullets, they will automatically get added into that leaderboard. It's very similar to the monthly leaderboard that we set up for your courses automatically. You can also set it to repeat on either a daily, weekly, or monthly basis so that you don't have to come in here and set it up again. So you could technically come in here, set up one for like a league or something like that, have it be weekly, and set the number of weeks that you want it to repeat, and it'll do the rest for you. Basically, it'll just set it up and will only appear during that time window that you designate. So just to give you a snapshot into what this admin setup looks like on the back end, these are all the things that we just went over, but as you can see, it's just one screen that you can go through. You set up everything, and then you hit create at the bottom, and then it's good to go. If you're wondering how to access this in your back end dashboard, you just hit engage users at the top left, and you hit leaderboards. On the ensuing page, it'll say monthly leaderboards or custom leaderboards. You'll want to go into the custom leaderboards one to get to this specific functionality. Moving on to step number 2, leaderboards versus GTW. At this point, you're probably thinking, okay, so what we're basically doing is we're allowing people to keep scoring the app and view how everyone else is doing on the course. What's the difference between that and the tournament software? Great question. So we came up with this little table so that you could see a little bit. To put it simply, leaderboards is a much more casual way of allowing people to view scores for other groups on the course. We already mentioned that we're allowing users to come in and join it instead of you having to upload like a spreadsheet or set up online registration and have all of that stuff done ahead of time. So think of it as like maybe you have a small group coming through. You have to send them out in 3 different tee times, but they want to see how everyone's doing throughout the day. It's maybe not enough for you to set up a full-on tournament, but it's also, you don't want to just tell them to go into the scorecard and just keep score like they normally would, because then they wouldn't be able to see how everyone's doing on the course. So all you have to do is just go into the back end like we just saw, set this up, tell them to go into their scorecard, which we'll go over the details on that in a moment, and then they'll just join it. So as you can see, our tournament software has a lot of different features that are available to you, but if you just want something that's a little more loosey-goosey, if you will, you can set up custom leaderboards for that. With all that being said, I'm going to turn it over to my partner here, Matt, and he's going to go over how the users actually get into one of these custom leaderboards.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kyle. Just for everybody's knowledge, in the Q&A section, I did post the slides for this slideshow for this webinar that we're doing so that you guys can download this and go through it again if you need to. Go through it with your staff if you want to as well. Plus also a link to our knowledge base article, which has all of the descriptions and details in way more detail than we're going through today, but just to give you an idea of explaining it. If you are going to be setting it up, you can have that pulled up on another web page and follow along that way as well to help you. So user registration. So the biggest difference, like Kyle had mentioned, is that the user is the one choosing to join typically a leaderboard versus you in the tournament software having to select each person, put in all their information, and actually pair them up in a pairings in groups and who's going out at what times and when. This is much simpler for you, the operator, to set up. It takes only about 30 seconds to actually create one, and you can set ones up that auto reoccur. So you only have to do it once, and they can be for 50 weeks, basically the whole year, that you don't have to go in and redo it again. But the biggest thing is the user has to know how to do it. So there's a little bit more, things for them. So if Kyle's going to go to the next slide and show you a step-by-step how you do this for the user. It is simple. And most of the time we recommend if it's for a bigger group or outing or maybe a league that is reoccurring, talk to whoever the captain of the league or the the league coordinator or the person in charge that set up the tee time and explain it to them, and they can explain it to everybody else. Again, it is pretty simple once you know what to do, and they only have to do it once when they start the round. And even if they don't start the round doing it and they mess up, they can join it halfway through the round or at the end of the round and still be added to that leaderboard as well. So the first thing you do is you pull up your scorecard and GPS on your home screen and get to the scorecard button, which Kyle has shown right here. As you can see at the very top, you can add up to 4 other players that you're playing with. So you can add everybody else's name, information, their handicap, and what tee box they're playing from, so it'll calculate their handicap correctly for those gross versus net games. So you can start by doing that, putting in all the people you're playing with, so they are choosing who they're playing with. You don't have to pair them up. If they just show up and, hey, I'm going to play with Joe today instead of Bob, you can basically, only one person per group has to score, or each person can score individually. It's up to you and up to them as they're playing who's scoring for who, and if it's, if I'm scoring for everybody or if I'm just scoring for me and Marcus, but then Jake and Joseph want to score for themselves, they can do that as well. So it's very like Kyle said, more loosey-goosey in that sense, where you can just show up and they can choose who they want to play with and they go out. So then they click on the bottom button, which is leaderboards. It'll show all the available leaderboards. So that's why the date and time is important, because they will only be able to see the ones that are currently available for them to join. Any previous leaderboards that they were a part of will be below this, actually. So if you're in a weekly league that plays every single week, any ones that they played in, they'll show the previous leaderboards below so they can go back and track their scores and see who won the previous weeks, which is nice as well. So you click on, as you can see, the name of the leaderboard is at the top in bold, and then the description, what you put in before, is below it. And it's a really good idea to explain how to join the leaderboard in that description, like we're doing right now, saying, hey, don't forget to hit join in the upper right of the next page. It's a really good detail to input in those description right there. So you click on the leaderboard, and then at the top, it'll have a join button. If it's an auto join leaderboard, they don't have to do this, and they'll just automatically be entered, and it won't say join. It'll just actually say unjoin. It'll say drop. Actually, I'm sorry, drop. If they want to be dropped, if they don't want to be part of that leaderboard. Same thing if they've already joined and they want to not be a part of it, or if there's too many people that put in the, one person scoring for all 4, and, Jake decided to put his own scorecard in, he can still keep scoring on his own phone and just hit drop and not be now part of the leaderboard there. So you hit join, and then it'll ask you to check box every single person that you're playing with if you want to have their scores added to the scorecard as well, or to the leaderboard, I'm sorry. And then it'll show the last screen takes you to the actual leaderboard, showing you all of the players. It always has your leaderboard at the top. So say there's maybe 100 people playing that day. Yours will always be at the very top, says what position you're in and what your score is, and then it lists everybody else below you. And then down below at the very bottom, as you can see, you can sort it by all. You can also sort by game type. So there is a default game type that you can set when you set up the leaderboard, but if they want to switch up what kind of game they're playing, you can set it up as stroke net, but then say they're going to play a skins game, they can automatically go down and they can just sort it themselves by skins. So it's a great way for you to just set it up as one game type, but they get to choose which one they want to play while they're out there. And they can change it up week to week if you want to. So that is how the user registers and joins the league, or leaderboard, I'm sorry. So now, some creative ideas. We have a lot of the ideas are somewhat similar, but you can kind of get, from what we're talking about here in these next couple ideas, some things that maybe might work for your club. Obviously some of these are more generic than others, and you can obviously use them for anything you want. But these are probably the most common things I see this leaderboard used for. So the first one is birthday/bachelor parties. Just if you have a big group coming in, maybe it's 15, 20, 25 people, and you have to send them out in multiple groups, no problem. You can basically just set up this ahead of time and even offer this as a, part of the package if they're, playing together as a big group. Say, hey, you get live scoring included with your package, or add it as an add-on. I've seen some clubs, charge extra for this, even though it doesn't take you very much time to do. It is a nice feature that they can live score and see everybody score as they're playing, and they get to choose the game type and everything. So you just explain to the person that booked it how they join, name it whoever's birthday party or bachelor party it is, and have them go out and play. Super simple, super easy. And again, you can make some extra money from this if you wanted to, or just add it as a nice feature for them. Another one is corporate events. A lot of times you have corporate events that are actually having a full tournament, which is, obviously a better way to use the tournament software. But sometimes you might have a smaller corporate event, some local businesses coming out to play. And again, they have 15, 20, 30 people coming out, and they don't really care about pairings. They're just going to come out and play. But again, you have to split them up over multiple different tee times, whether it's a shotgun tee time that they're all going out at the same time, or multiple back to back to back. Set up the leaderboard, let them play. And even if they're playing out through like a whole weekend, a lot of times people might be playing, not all in the same day. It's great. You can have that leaderboard for an entire weekend, and whoever has the best score, might win, and they can kind of, talk trash to each other that way. So it's a great way to kind of keep, over multiple days events for maybe a weekend or something where a corporation is having an event there. And then probably the most common thing I see most people using this for is weekly leagues, because you can set up reoccurring leaderboards for the entire season. Like we talked about before, at the very bottom when you set up the leaderboard, it'll say how often you want to repeat. You can do it weekly, and you can set up 50 weeks at one time. So basically the entire year. What's really nice about this, the name of the league or the name of the leaderboard that you create, and when you do a repetitive one, it'll have the date and time automatically added to the end of that. So every different week, it'll say Tuesday Men's League, and it'll say, Wednesday the 24th, and then it'll say the next Wednesday, it'll say Wednesday the 20, the April 6th or whatever it may be that way. So it automatically appends each leaderboard with the correct date. So when you go back and look at them later, you know exactly what date it's for without having to click on it and get into it and figure out what date it's for. So that's a great one. If you have ones that are weekly or bi-weekly, you can create every week and then delete the weeks that they're not playing. So, or daily, if they play multiple times a day, you can set up a daily for multiple weeks and then just delete the ones they're not going to use, or they just don't use them. You can set up daily and have them do for 100 days, and then just the ones they use, and the ones they don't, people just don't use. So it's really easy that way. Then the last one, it's just maybe you have a bunch of regulars. I know a lot of clubs have, that group of 15, 20, maybe it's only, 10 guys that go out every Sunday morning or every Friday afternoon or every Tuesday at, 6 a.m., whatever it may be. Same thing. You can set up reoccurring, every week for them to a leaderboard so they can see, each other's scores. You can set it up as, skins for them or just stroke, and they can calculate if they're playing other different game types that we don't have in the leaderboard. They can still at least have it there and then make it easier to calculate who's winning on the fly for them. So regulars, I've seen this used for quite a bit. It says the name of their group or whoever. It can just say like Tuesday morning group or something like that. So that is another one that I've seen quite a bit be used that way. So those are, some of the more basic, easy stuff to do. But again, you can use it for anything you want, even just single individual outings or anything that you want to use it for. And now we're going to go on to the Q&A section. We're good on time. We got 10 minutes left to answer as many questions as you want. Let me check. Looks like Becky has a question. We
do have one.
Yes. Perfect. Thanks, Becky. Oh, we have two. Okay. So if we have a league that plays a different course every week, do we have to create a new one every week for that correct course? Yes. Essentially, there's a couple different ways you can do that. I've seen some, if you have a 27-hole course, like it sounds like you do, Becky, what you can do is just set up each course as a weekly reoccurring and delete the ones that, every second week. So if you're going to do for a whole season, create all three and then just delete the ones that they're going to use, or leave them all there and have just the name of the course so they can pick which course they want to do. So if they are randomly picking which course they're playing, then yes, I would put all of them in there and they can just choose, and it doesn't matter. You just set up all of them. If not, if they have a rotation that's pretty consistent, then you can set it up ahead of time. It does take a little bit more time to do that. One thing you might have to do is if you're a 27-hole course and you maybe only have 3 rotations in your actual app, we might have to set up, all 9 rotations or the other ones if they're front and back nines, or if they play the front and back differently each week. So that on 27 holes are a little bit more complicated, and I'm sure you're aware of this in any software that's out there. If you have more questions, you can reach out to me. I can definitely help you out because I've done this with quite a few 27-hole courses. So absolutely. That's a great question, though.
And then Anna also asked if this could be used for a 9-hole course. So Anna, this is similar to what Matt was just saying. We can definitely set up 9-hole courses for your facility as well, so that on that initial screen that we were showing, when you're selecting which course at the top, you'll have your front 9 and your back 9 as well, so that you can go in there and set which one you'd like it to be for, and then it will automatically only show that leaderboard when someone is in that 9-hole course during that date range.
Exactly. Yeah. So they have to choose the course when they're choosing their scorecard initially, and they have to choose either front 9 or back 9, and we can do that. So if your app already doesn't have that set up, that's very easy. We can do that. Just reach out to us, and we can set up both your front and back 9, and also any other rotations for 27-hole course as well.
And then Kevin, you just asked, basically, could we set up a Twilight League each Wednesday night of the year / season, then delete those that don't apply? So yes, correct. So you would basically set it up as recurring weekly, as long as you'd set the date range for that first Wednesday night, and then you'd be able to go in and edit the leaderboards to make sure that the ones that don't apply get out of there as well. You can even set how many weeks that you want it to recur, so that it's not just kind of like endlessly recurring.
Yeah, exactly. What's really nice too, Kevin, is that you can set you can just leave them in there. I mean, it doesn't hurt that they're there if they're not going to play that week either. It just won't. It'll be available during that day, but if they're not playing, it just it'll just disappear. But to make it cleaner in the back end for you to see which dates people have played, you can delete them yourself. You can even go back and edit if they want. If you know that the players are playing a different game type every week, and you want to set the default, you can go back and edit each one individually too, if you wanted to, or just give them the option to do it. So yeah, it's a great question.
Definitely.
So yeah.
Okay, I think we've about reached the end of the Q&A section. Custom leaderboards is a great feature. It's I forgot to mention this, a little history of Gallus Golf. We actually, when we first set up the apps, set up custom leaderboards, and that was kind of the original tournament software that we had.
Yeah.
So a lot of people used it for tournaments. Ever since, it's kind of changed its role a little bit to be more what you've seen today, and the people that use it seem to really like it. So we're excited to watch what all of you do with it this year, and kind of get a little creative with it. So
one tip I forgot to tell you that I like to point out, when you're setting up the custom leaderboard, the time period, if say it's a men's league that goes out every Tuesday at 2 p.m., set the time period that it shows up at least an hour ahead of time, so that when they're showing up and they're about to go out and play, they can already be joining the league before their round, because it doesn't hurt to have it show up a little bit early. You can set it, even all day if you wanted to, and you can have it just expire at the end of that day at midnight, or the next day in the morning as well. The time period can be very open. It's when it's available, but you don't want it to be too limited that the people that are actually trying to use it can't find it when they're getting ready, putting their shoes on in the parking lot, kind of thing. So yeah, that's one tip I've definitely has helped when clubs have done that. So
Matt, Kevin also noticed your fresh haircut.
Yes,
so
Kevin. Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's my wife does it every couple of weeks to keep me nice and fresh. So yeah, thanks, Kevin.
Definitely.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks.
So if you're interested in learning more about custom leaderboards, we do have a great knowledge base article about it. We also would be happy to hop on a review call with you, not just to talk about custom leaderboards. We can talk about Matt's haircut if you want, or we can talk about anything else you like. So there, Matt did link he'll throw in basically the link for his review call if you want to do that. And then there's also the link to the knowledge base article. Our knowledge base does have all sorts of resources for different parts of the app. So if you're looking for something specific, you can always go in there and use the search bar. But our goal is, whatever way you want to find your answer, you should be able to do it. So if you want to talk to someone, you can call us. If you want to email someone, you can email us. We have a chat box and all the pages on our website. Or if you just want to find the answer yourself, you can just go to the knowledge base. So once again, we thank you all for coming. It's always a pleasure to talk to you all and show you some of the fun features. So we're looking forward to next time. Next time we'll be going over some creative uses for the home screen of the app. We actually just redesigned the manager dashboard. By the time we get to that webinar, you'll be able to have a whole new experience editing it. So we're really looking forward to that. Matt is throwing in the registration link for that one. And we look forward to talking to you all then. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us.